And here's the simple question he asked. He said, Ben, we live in Elwood, Indiana. He said, living in Elwood, Indiana has its own series of complexity. I said, yeah. So I started to think through that. I thought of a young man in our community, someone that I've ministered to, who struggles with addiction to drugs. He comes from a broken family. And as much as I love on him and I've poured into him, it just seems like he can't get over that addiction. And it isn't just to drugs. You can insert in this community a list of everything. It isn't just being addicted to drugs. It's just addiction. It's almost like we have a spirit of addiction. I know another young man who's come to me, and he confessed that he's addicted to sexual immorality. It's stuff online. It's outside of his wife. I mean, in the news, right? This isn't just unique to Elwood. It's America. We read about the Duggar family, who there's this website that we could log on to have a secret affair. So some people struggle with addiction to sex. Some people struggle with addiction to tobacco. Some people struggle with addiction of lying. And so we start asking that question, when we think of all the complexity here, how do we change Elwood? I think of the young family who they just about get out of financial trouble, only to be right back in financial trouble. And I try to pour into them, and I try to give them ideas of what they can do to try to get out of this downward spiral. This doesn't work. Can't tell you how many elderly people that I've met and ministered to. And this is their struggle. They said, you know what? I've lost my status in the community. So what do you mean? Well, I'm retired now. And now when people say our job is what defines me, I've lost what defines me. And not only that, but now the health issues are mounting. So I have all these health issues. I'm on a fixed income. He said, Ben, I don't know what to do. I feel depressed. It's the young mom who has never gone over postpartum depression. And she says, Ben, I don't know what to do. Every day I think about either killing myself or just walking away from my family. These are the people that we rub shoulders with every single day that are with us. It's the senior in high school and college that says to me, am I or aren't I? Should I or shouldn't I? And I sit here as your pastor, and Jeff asked that question yesterday, and it was a myriad of emotions that flooded over me. Because on the one hand, I want to jump on the chair and scream and shout and say, I can fix your problem, just listen to me. And God said, Ben, it's because you're a man. And the way that God's wired you is you want to fix everything. Just sit down and we'll talk, and I'll give you the step-by-step way to fix it. He said, I didn't call you to be the fixer. The other option is to sit in front of you and just cry because of how brokenhearted I am. Because the people come for answers, and I give answers, and marriages are still falling apart, and people are still losing their jobs, and we're still in an economically recessed area. Amen? Are you hearing me? Yes. And I go and I watch this movie called War Room. And it blows my mind. Because usually what happens in church is we see the problem, right? We all know the problems. It's sex, it's drugs, it's sin. We see the problem. We see our marriage falling apart. We see our children and grandchildren walking away from the church and walking away from the Lord in record numbers. And at times it's what causes me to lose sleep at night. And I usually can sleep like a baby. Actually, I usually sleep like a rock. Now I'm starting to sleep like a baby. You know how a baby sleeps? Wakes up every 2 hours and cries. You used to sleep like a rock. Because within the church, what happens is we do one of two things. Can I be honest with you? Can I be real with you? Because here are the two things that we do in the church. One of two things. We either go around and we gossip about that person. Let me tell you about my husband. Let me tell you about all the problems. Right? Let me tell you everything that he does wrong. Let me tell you about my wife. Let me tell you about all the problems. The old ball and chain, right? What does that even mean? You made a choice to marry that person. You gonna call him a ball and chain? What's wrong with you? And so what happens is we walk around and we gossip and we tell everybody all the negative stuff about that person. And it isn't just our marriage relationship. We do it with our boss. Let me tell you how evil our boss is. Let me tell you how wicked the boss is. Really? What's wrong with you? Oh, but then we Christianize it. Do you know what we say? Can you pray for that? Really? Do you really want me to pray for that? Because it sounds like all you want to do is just show up and air your dirty laundry. So we either gossip about them, or we think that they're the enemy. You hear me? We see the boss as the enemy. We see our spouse as the enemy. We see our disobedient children as the enemy. We see, friends, I don't know why we are meanest to the ones we're supposed to love. And the church is not safe from that. Right? Because I've talked to some of you. I'm being real. I told Amanda, as a result of today's message, I'm going to meet with the board afterwards. We're going to talk about the building. But as a result, they may say, you know what, man, we may just need to call a pastoral vote. Maybe today's the day that we just need a new pastor. I'm like, you know what, that's okay. If that's the case, I'm going down swinging. This is my best message today. I'm prepared for today. I hope you wore your steel-toed shoes. I'm stepping on toes, and I'm offending people today. Okay?
It's okay.
Is that all right?
Amen.
Because, like I said in Sunday school, for too long we live a safe existence. And so we see our friends and our loved ones and our husbands and our wives and our bosses and the government as the enemy. And this is what I love when you read Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. And Paul's talking to the church of Ephesus. And the church of Ephesus is most like every church in America. You mean there's a church 2,000 years ago that's like a church in America? Absolutely. Why? Because in the church of Ephesus, the battle was who's going to be the true God in your life. What I'm talking about is who's the little g God in our life. And what happens even with Christians today, is the same thing that happened 2,000 years ago. And we think, as long as I say a prayer, as long as I do the dance, I'm okay. But we're not sold out. We see the prayer, I asked Jesus to come into our life as we started the race. But too many people, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to wait for the Lord to return. When we sit on our do-nothings, then we do nothing. And what happens, friends, the danger of that is now we take God, big G God, and we want just enough God to sprinkle in our everyday lives. What I love is this morning, in Sunday school, the church of Ephesus, one of the 7 churches that Jesus reveals as prophecy, there was a group of people named the Nicolaitans. And they thought, I can do whatever I want to my physical body because my physical body is different from my spiritual body. So I can go and act like the world and I can sin and sin boldly because they thought it doesn't affect my spiritual life. Sounds a lot like the people in church today. Sounds a lot like believers today. And this was my answer to Jeff. I said, Jeff, I don't know how to change this culture because we have a lot of people who show up to church who are converts. People who just want just enough God that just in case all these words are true, I don't want to go to hell. But I don't believe in the words so much that it's going to cost me something. See, there's a problem when we start the race. It's a lot like yesterday. Jeff was crazy and wanted to go on over a 100-mile bike ride, 102 miles. In our minds, in my mind, it's easy to go 100 miles. In my mind, it's easy to say, God, use me, use all of me. Empty me of me and fill me with you. Because guess what happens? You're like 65 miles into it, and you run out of water, and the wind's blowing in the wrong direction. And I want to say, you know what? I'm tired, and I'm done. There was a point yesterday I was ready just to be done. There was one problem. I was 35 miles from home. My wife wasn't going to come pick me up. What happens is in the church today, because we live a safe existence, because we don't want to get out of the boat, because we want to step out to the wide unknown, we become converts. So we say the prayer and we do the dance and we show up on Sunday. But where we've lacked, where we've jumped the shark, where we've missed the mark, is I don't know how many of us would actually say we're disciples. Because a disciple is somebody who's sold out every single second of every single day. Jeff said, Ben, I look at you, I know your sisters, how did you turn out so well? And I said, well, a lot of people look at me and they ask me what's wrong with me. So, A, it's a matter of perspective. Yes? And so I'll tell you what the problem is with my sisters. It was the same problem with me. I'll tell my mom this. We were Sunday morning Christians. You know what that means, right? It's Sunday morning we show up and go to church. Because we're converts. Because we're good Christians. That's what good Christians do. We come to church. I think I lived in a quasi-monastery. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, right? Every time the church doors were open, we were there. Because we're good Christians. It's what we do. Until we're not in church. Friends, you see the culture, you see the climate we're in? We're ready to be offended? Here we go. If you don't like where the culture is at, it's our fault. Because it's the previous generation's job to teach the next generation. It was impressed upon me that we go to church, it's what we do. We say prayers when we bless our food because it's what we do. But don't let it cost me something. And when we live a safe existence just a Sunday morning, when these problems start to stack up, and they do, amen? Amen. They become the enemy, our problems. Paul says this is the same thing that's happened in Ephesus. Ephesus, they had a temple to the goddess Diana, or in the Greek, Artemis. She was the fertility god. That means they would cut themselves, and they would pray to Diana that her semen would fall, the fertility juice would fall. What do we call that? Rain. They would go together to the temple, and they would copulate, means have sex, with temple prostitutes. Well, I can't believe that they would do that. You live in America like I live in America? Do you read about Duggar? Right? Well, Pastor, ready? It was 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was just, online. I didn't mean for it to happen. Listen, nothing good happens after 11 p.m. Right? Just go to bed.